Welcome to Wholesale Hotties. Oh, good, Donda, you're back. My name is Sharon-Lee.
Talking to my husband.
Oh, Jim's hush and get online. My name is Sharon-Lee Smith. I'm your host and MC for the evening, joined with my co-host Donda, who's running. Welcome to the show today. Today we have an amazing guest for you, Teri Hunter. Let me just tell you a bit about Teri. She says, I'm a Christian woman passionate about serving my clients with integrity, guiding them through every aspect of buying and selling real estate, whether helping seniors transition into communities, assisting families finding their dream homes, or helping investors navigate this crazy market. I believe in making a difference in people's lives. Teri, welcome to the show. That's amazing, and I love that.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
She's been our unicorn agent and helped us through so much. So we really appreciate her a ton.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Teri, I guess start at the beginning. How did you get into real estate? What made you do this crazy business that we do?
So I've always loved real estate. I think just from interior, exterior, there's always been something about just buildings and homes and real estate that's excited me. And to really take it back, like I used to be like a house hunter junkie. I would sit and watch House Hunters back to back over and over, or like all the fix and flip shows, like
all the HGTV stuff,
all of them. Like I was just obsessed. So it was something that I always really wanted to do, but I've always had a family to help provide for. I've always been a breadwinner in our family. So timing wasn't always there for me to jump into real estate, even though I would have, jumped in probably 10, 15 years ago if I could have. But it's been a few years now. I actually got my license just a couple years ago, but I got, that itch of like, am I going to do what I really wanted to do? And then my husband reverse psychologied me and was like, you're not going to do it. You've talked about it for 10 years. And then he came home and I was like, guess what I did today? And he's like, what? And I said, I signed up for real estate school.
Nice.
I really wanted to do the investment side. That was also just a really big part of it. Yes, I wanted to be a realtor and be able to, buy, sell, do all the things with my clients, but I really was interested in investing. So I also joined the Sub 2 community. And previous to that, I had met Donda. I knew, Stephen and Angel Hunt and Ingrid Hernandez. And so when we were, looking at me jumping into real estate, I had to talk my husband into that because at first he was like, it's a scam. It's not real. And I was like, it really is. It is real. So before I was in hospitality my whole life. So I just love people.
Yeah.
I got into restaurant management and then I ended up as the operations manager for Topgolf for 6 years.
Oh, really? That's cool.
So led a really big team in a really big venue, and I had like 22 managers and 350 employees that I oversaw, and I loved it. And I think all of those little pieces of things, God's steps and God's walks towards like the big picture of what I'm able to do now, like all of that was teaching me and leading me to help me for once I got into real estate.
Yeah.
And then I left Topgolf and I opened up at Jeremiah's Italian Ice. So I am a business owner. I own 2 businesses. I have my Jeremiah's Italian Ice that's been open 2.5 years. And then 8 years ago, my husband and I opened up a barber shop. He is a barber. But we have about 7 barbers, and a stylist. And so we've had that now 8 years, almost 9 this fall. So I am an entrepreneur at heart. Like I love business.
As we all are. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like taking all of that and like pushing it into real estate when I, jumped in and actually did the school and learned, my mind was blown because there's so many different ways you can do real estate.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what led me, into, my husband also tricked me again. He was like, if you pass your real estate exam on the first go, I will take you to Italy because I would love to go to Italy. And I passed that on the first go. I have yet to make it to Italy.
Oh, well, he's slacking.
He is. He's like, how about something closer, like Mexico?
That's funny. That's funny.
So, yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome, actually. You were saying that you were the breadwinner of a family. Tell me a little bit about family.
So, I think for many, many years, I've always been the one to kind of grab the reins and like drive the car. Like
Uh-huh.
my husband is very supportive. Once we kind of like go into the motion of doing some things, he's always like, yes. He appreciates my business brain, my go-getter mentality. I'm definitely a chance taker where he's like a very comfortable man. So, I've always had to provide, like I've never been the stay-at-home mom, and I give it to those women because I know it's a hard job. Mentally, I don't think I could do it, actually.
Me
It's
either.
something that I give it to every stay-at-home mom. I think they're magical.
Yeah.
And but I have always worked. I've worked since I was literally 12 years old, like
Yep.
one job or the other, and multiple jobs at times. And like right now, like running a few businesses, it excites me.
Yeah.
I am a Christian woman, so I have a very close relationship with Christ, and I definitely value the faith that I have,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that even if I fail, like God has me, because he has always just shown time and time over and over and over again, like even in times of, discomfort or, instability where you're thinking like, oh crap, like he always pulls through and we
Wow.
always learn something and grow from it. So I'm very blessed that I have God, and that he always, guides me and protects me. And my husband
And helps you
also,
juggle all the kids and the husband.
yeah, my husband, he is also, we've raised our family like, to know God, but I've really seen him in the past year, like follow lead from me of like knowing like God has us, because sometimes he goes into panic mode, which is very normal. But
Yeah. Oh, it's very human.
Donda will send me like little devotionals sometimes, and I swear it's always like when you need to hear it.
I think because that's the way God is, right? He
Like, okay,
goes around us to give us the
Yes.
message we need right when we need to hear it. Yeah.
She's like, you don't know how much she'll text me back. You didn't know how much I needed that right now.
Yep.
I didn't, but somebody else did, because
Yes.
Right.
yeah,
It's so true. But it's like Donda says, like it's the God winks,
Yeah.
that get you, and I love working, and I love that my children have got to see me as a mom, because I'm a very involved mom. I have very close relationships with each of my kids, and they're spread out. So my oldest is 26,
Mm-hmm.
then 24. She's almost 27. He's almost 25. Then we have a 23-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So
Okay, so that's a little more helpful, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, how are you juggling 4 kids and like multiple businesses and a husband and you know what I mean? Okay, but
I have
spread
3
out,
at
I
home.
think it does make it a little easier, don't you think?
Yeah. 3 plus a husband at home, and because like my 9-year-old is the baby, like of all the older kids, he's very self-sufficient, and then my 17-year-old is like going to Barber Academy in high school right now at the same time. Like he's on summer break, but he's got summer school because he has to hit credits to graduate. And I think we're going to maybe open up a second barber shop next year once he graduates, so I can teach him business and, all of that good stuff. But he really wants to grab a new job. And I'm like, I need you to help just be available to watch your brother for me to go work. Right. You'll get to work for the rest of your life, but I need to be able to run out and do real estate. And he's not quite old enough to be home alone. Right. So it's definitely, I mean, how many kids do you have?
I have 3. And they're spread out like that. My daughter's 22, my 23 actually. My middle son is 19. He'll be 20 this coming month. And my youngest son is almost 16. So they're about 3.5 to 4 years apart each. And it was so helpful, right? Because when one's out of diapers, they can be that, they're in that age where they're helpful to mom when the next one comes, you know what I mean? And so it really worked out better. For sure.
But I love being able to show my children how it is to work hard and to be able to show them like, hey, if you put your mind to it, you can be a business owner. If you really want to, like the real estate was something that I wanted to do and I did it. Like you can make it happen. You just have to work hard. I definitely delegate. I'm big on delegation, which obviously operation management, like that was what I came from getting into real estate. So at first it was a little different trying to go, okay, I've got to tweak some of this, but I have a manager that runs my Jeremiah's Italian Ice, we have meetings, we chat. She lets me know if she needs anything.
Like an owner, right, Donda?
Yes. Yes. Teri's got a little bit of everything. Well, and your dad was an entrepreneur too, so it's just kind of in your family's blood there.
Yes, I am hoping we're going to sit down and talk about his boat store when I go up there. My dad's trying to sell his boat dealership, and I really want it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure that out. So hopefully when I return from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I will be a boat dealership owner.
That's awesome and a great transition. So just before the show started, we started talking about, right, we're so busy to a point of almost burnout, but we don't want to stop and rest. And really, as Christian women, right, that's commanded. Like we're supposed to rest.
Right.
And so let's talk a little bit about that, like juggling that desire to just go, burn, and how hard is it to choose
yourself
the rest?
Well, and it's like you have to give yourself permission to like it's okay to go do this. And and like Teri, how much time are you taking off for yourself finally?
I mean, technically between Lake Havasu and then Coeur d'Alene, a couple of weeks, like in total. My husband and I just went to Vegas for a couple of nights. Like I definitely try to make sure I feel like that I'm like sneaking in those like moments to appreciate and stop and smell the roses, because I could work all the time because I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
Actually, I love the feeling of like helping people, and it's not just like transactional. I'm not a transactional person. So I love like the relationships and all that comes along with it. But I love my family, and God does want you to have moments of rest. And so I've gotten so much better at like realizing that of like, hey, it is okay. Like when you are doing a bunch in real estate, like this month I had 7 closings. So
that's a lot.
But when they start to come to like, okay, they're all closing, and then you're like, oh, I have to go get more. I have to go get more. I have to do it all over again.
Needs to be full. Yeah.
Gotta keep going.
Yeah.
Which I am really lucky because I still have 3 more transactions under contract that close in like July and August.
Right.
And I have a few more buyers that I'm actively looking with, and that I'm sure we'll get them under contract. But I also like have to go like, but it's okay even if I didn't. Like even if for the next month, like I just got to enjoy my family and all my hard work and stop for a minute because my kids are going to be going back to school and show them their, just be a mom. I do love real estate because I do get to be home so much more.
Right.
Like I get to make dinner, I get to make my schedule essentially. There are times where I'm like, I've got to go, I've got to do this.
Right.
But I still get to see my family so much more than when I was in corporate America, working 50, 60 hours in a building and then coming home and having to do more work,
Right.
So, but it is okay for us to like stop, and you have to just like stop and remember it. And God says it so many times, like, to take rest. And so that's what I've definitely try to give myself the grace. That's it too, like giving yourself grace and mercy, and understanding that He always provides, so you don't have to panic.
Yeah.
More too shall come.
It's hard sometimes, not only in, looking at future business, oh, there's nothing there yet, right? And you do have that panic, if you will, to just like give that, peacefully up to Him to provide.
Right.
I think that's one of the biggest struggles I have, because I'm a go-getter. Like, I got this. Why do I gotta put this in His hands? I got this. And it's definitely a struggle.
But then, when you start to feel that, like that feeling, like that's not God.
Right.
No.
You know what I mean? So that's where like I've had to teach myself like that, like as soon as I start to hear it or feel it. No, Donda's heard me say this like a million times, but I feel like once a month, because of my hormones, I have like a monthly midlife crisis.
Welcome
and like all of a sudden my emotions like start to like go, you should be doing better, you should be doing more, you should be, or you see other people posting things on social media and their deals or their social pages, and you're like, I'm fine, I'm not that person. Like, I've gotten so much better at like stopping myself. Like, no, I'm not that person. I have so many blessings. I'm just fine where I'm at. I'm in God's path. And I just like immediately dispose of that.
Yeah.
Say a prayer.
Yeah.
Maybe have a Dondi day. And,
I need a Donda day. I'm coming out, Donda.
You should. Yeah. But like when they named them Dondi days, the days of like, I'm just like overwhelmed. There's so much is going on. I just need to step back from everything. And he's like, just go have a Dondi day. And I just try to shut my phone off, and I can get in my scripture and watch maybe a great Christian movie. There's so many of them out there now. Teri and I always share good movies with each other. It's like, oh my gosh, I bawled out there.
Nice.
Like the Jeremy Camp story and different ones. But
talk about tears, Donda.
I told, right?
That one really had me.
Oh, I know. You'll watch it again and you'll bawl just as hard the second time. I'm telling you. It's like, it's a great movie.
God, like, you have those moments of like a quick rest, and then you like pick up a phone call and there's like a client that needs a house listed, or like I'm did my whiteboard, like I did my PACE goals in the beginning of the year, and I whiteboarded out like my wholesale goals and my traditional goals and my business goals and all of the things. And like right now I've got a couple commercial clients that I'm helping look for brick and mortar spaces. And I just actually was able to, I found a capital partner that has a bunch of money. He wants to help put in on creative deals. It's one of my dad's very close friends. And so was it last week or two weeks ago? I closed on my first Subject to deal where I'm a partner on.
Oh,
I didn't have to put up any money. And it was kind of that first like real, I've done subject to as the agent or the connector, like, you know, on an assignment. I've made some really good money on some of those assignments. I've been very blessed and I love to do that. But this was the first one that, and so it's actually, I'm 25% owner and then my other partner is 25%. And we've kind of got this he has a property management company, so we're joining on that. So I'm partnering on that property management company, and him and his wife have been doing it for years. And so all the people that I traditionally turn over to another friend of mine that has a property management company now will be able to keep in house.
Right.
And it's a really great house, and we're doing co-living on it. So
I was just going to ask what your exit strategy was on it. So you got co-living. Awesome.
Co-living, and he already had another co-living home out right next to it that actually filled, and then there was flow over of people that wanted, so we're able to push them over into that. And just working on another one in Maricopa.
I've got one that you might be interested in Tempe. It's got a ADU with it. We should
nice
talk in Tempe. So
that sounds great. And then today I was with one of my sellers. I have two of her properties. Well, no, one just closed last week. So I have one of her properties listed, and I'm getting ready to list two more of her properties because she has 10 rental properties she's ready to just make liquid and sell. And so I met with her today and we were driving and she was like, you know, so I think like I'm not ready to be totally done yet. So how about I give you some money and maybe we flip some house? Or she's like, I really want to see you hold more. So maybe we figure out where I give you the money and then we, you know, X, Y, and Z. And she's such a smart lady. She was a realtor for 50 years. She's owned 85 properties. Has 10 left. Yeah. She's about to turn 81 next week. And she's like a ball full of knowledge. And so it's like
about seller financing, use some of her properties.
We have, there's a couple, her husband really, really wants to liquidate what they have right now. You know, so sad, but you get to a certain age and she's like, he wants us to liquidate everything right now. Cause I think he's afraid if something were to happen to him and he passed away, that she would have to worry about dealing with things. And I did try to kind of angle that a little there, but she's ready just for them to make that money. And then he's like, and we'll just divide and I'll give you a chunk and then you can do whatever you want with it. And so it was it's like you have these discussions and like every day you wake up and it's like something new. Like, you know, I reached out to my dad's friend, you know, the billionaire, asking him, because we were looking at a 12 unit that was brought in Phoenix and it didn't work out because of the bank. And then, you know, reached back out and said, hey, like, let me teach you about subject to and how we can do this and people with 2.99% interest rates. And he was like, okay, let's buy 100 of them.
Right.
I'm like, okay. You know, so it's like every time you just have these little moments where I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Like, I see what you're doing in my life right now. My other partner, I feel like God just places these really wonderful people like Donda and Jim, like just really strong Christian, you know, believers in your path. And Matt, my other partner, he is just a wonderful Christian man. And the first time that we ever spoke, it was starting on a lockbox on one of my sub 2 houses that I sold. It was my listing. We ended up selling it subject to for some of my sellers, and he was the buyer, and we got connected and they kept my lockbox. And so we were on the phone about a lockbox. It turned into an hour conversation about God. And then 2 weeks later, he called up and said, hey, you know, like, I've been looking for an awesome agent that I can partner with. I've got a lot of investors, like I buy some myself, some are my partners, but I want to like do something bigger. Like, take you as the agent and utilize you as your agent skills and then roll that into all the other things. And so he had kind of already started a couple things, then we started a couple things together and then pushing it all together. And it's been a really fun process, but it started for a call over a lockbox.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
It's funny sometimes how God just guides the path right into not only the deals or whatever, but the people and the relationships, right? And so many times you meet out of the blue these people that have the same passions as you, same calling as you, that all those type of things, and it's fascinating.
Well, it's like Sharon and I met at Owners Club, just happened to sit beside each other. Terry and I were at an event, a real estate event in Mesa, and met. She was standing next to me. It's just, you're kind of drawn to those people, but you don't even realize why you're sitting by somebody or standing next to somebody until you look back and you're like, that's why. Yep.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not on accident.
No.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
What, if anything, right now or in future, are you using your real estate knowledge and expertise in a way to glorify God, right? To benefit, I don't know, to serve Him in some way?
So that's what I was like feeding into a minute ago, and I squirreled because I have like serious ADHD. But,
we all do.
I think most visionaries do.
I love, Dan Martell, and he's like, use it as a superpower. I'm like, I do every day of my life. But so I was on the phone with Matt like a couple weeks ago, and I said, God has been blessing me so much. And I feel like everything that he's doing is like in this motion forward for maybe something even greater that I can do for him.
Yeah.
Like something's going to happen within this year that I'm going to be able to even, just do something even more for him with all he's blessing me with.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I can tell you what you're going to do right now. And I was like, okay, you can. Like, tell me what it is. And he's like, well, you're going to bring people closer to God. You're going to teach people, you're going to give the gospel. Everybody that you work with every single day, you're going to talk about God and about Jesus, and you're going to give the gospel. Like, it doesn't have to be this extravagant thing that you do, but you touch so many people's lives and you talk to so many people every single day. And he's like, and you always talk about God, and you always talk about Jesus, and you always mention that you're a Christian. He's like, so what you're going to do this year is become even more confident in your Bible teachings and more, able to share your relationship with Christ, that's what you're going to do. Like, because that's what God created us to do, is to bring people closer to him. Yeah. So do I have big dreams of maybe starting, rehabilitation centers for addicts? I've dealt with that in my life with my family, and my brother was a heroin addict for many, many, many years from a teenager up. And he went to a place in Washington called The Ranch, and it's faith-based, and they read the New Testament 2 times over. And it's now been pushed where like even certain people through the court will be given the option, do you want to go to The Ranch for 3 months, or do you want to do time? Or you know what I mean? Right. But it's super affordable. So think co-living, but so I know there's the sober living places, but this isn't just a sober living. This is a God
Christian
center. It's a Christian center. It's very affordable. It's a few $1,000s for at least 60 to 90 days, where most treatment centers for 30 days is $25,000, so that's my big, do something for God, but I think like just every day, like talking to all of my clients, all of my agents that I come in contact with. I love when I'm like, I'm a Christian. Like, we're going to have faith that this is going to play out how it's supposed to play out.
Right.
And you'll see people's faces. They're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, okay. I have my little old man, I have his house listed. And I asked him right in the beginning, I'm like, well, I'm a Christian and I believe, you know, what's supposed to happen, God has a plan. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what about you? You know?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you know, I've never really, like, I believe, I guess, you know, but I've never really, well, now me and him have spent about 4 months together, you know? So pretty much like he hears it consistently and he knows, like, and I
love
see a
it.
change in when I discuss it and when we talk about it, like I see a change in him.
You can see
Yeah.
he's growing closer and wanting more aware, I think. And he starts asking questions too, I bet, hasn't he?
Yeah. And I think just seeing, like, sometimes when people haven't had that with someone like myself, and then they can see like, wow, this lady, like, she really just, and look at her, you
Right.
know,
Mhm.
like
Right.
she believes and look at how she floats, you
Yeah.
know, in comparison to like where he was like so distraught and so stressed. I'm like, you can't stress like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No good.
Yeah.
And so I think it's those moments.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's really ultimately what we're called to do, right? Is to just, in our own lives, in our own way, talk about our faith. You know, we don't have to be at a pulpit preaching, just
No.
sharing the God winks, right, Donda? The little things that God's doing in our life
Mhm.
is just, you know, and the encouragement, right? For you, like for him, he was stressing, you were just calm down, it's okay, or whatever, you know. I think that's it, right? I think that's the best witness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, it's not to say that things can't be hard. Like, you
Yeah,
know, we
No,
have,
of
you
course.
know,
not at
the
all.
listings and the things, they sometimes in your head, you think they're going to go a certain way. It's not that we don't have like the human moment where you're like, ugh, like this is rough
Right.
right now.
Right. Yeah.
But when you have faith and you have that relationship, I don't know how people do it without.
I don't either. I don't either.
Because I'm like,
The
man, to
stress could be
not
different.
know and to not have that and go through life without it, like,
Right.
ugh,
They'd be
I
on
don't
lots
know.
of anxiety medications, I would think, or something, you know, just because they just don't know how to like have that faith to just like,
Yeah.
it always works out. It always
Yep.
does.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fun. And, you know, whether it's like investing with the, you know, the subject to or the traditional or all of it, like there's always so much that comes with it. You
Yeah.
know, transactions are a lot. I'm very knowledgeable in the market, so I feel very blessed that I know a lot of what's going on and I keep up to date and I'm out in it every single day. But there's a lot of people that get into real estate that want to be in real estate, but they don't know a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you hit a lot of speed bumps. So I couldn't imagine like not knowing and then going through those things and then not having God to like sit there and hold my hand through it.
Right. So I don't
Those,
panic and melt
those poor
down.
people.
And yeah.
Poor
Uh-huh.
people.
Terry, do you think being an agent has given you an advantage in learning about real estate? Because before that, okay, because some people say, oh, you don't need a license, which you don't need your license, but just to get a lot of knowledge and stuff, you were educated on a lot of things in real estate that you wouldn't otherwise know.
You would never know. I learned so much in real estate school. And yes, like it's a lot jammed into like, you know, a shorter period of time, depending
Right.
on how you take your classes and stuff. But I mean, you really do need to know. There's a lot of things that unless
Yeah.
you learn about that, I don't know how. I mean, I know that there's a lot of very successful investors that are not agents. Like I do
Right.
know.
Right.
But I am a woman
I'm
that
sorry, but
enjoys
there's a
having.
lot of agents that are not very good at investing, and
Or
don't
don't know much
understand
about
it
real
at
estate. They're
all.
not very good agents, period, right? But
Yeah.
that's
A lot of them fake it till they make it. And I've worked with some of them, and it blows my mind how they get through their day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
I couldn't live that way. That's just not who I am.
Yeah.
But again, I think because of my background, like I'm a very systematic, I like things to work, as efficiently as possible. And I'm an over communicator.
Right.
So I communicate probably to almost an annoying point to some.
yeah, but you know what? You call there's some agents like they're listing have a listing and you call them and they don't return their calls. You're like, does this person how does
Yeah.
this seller feel if you knew your agent wasn't never answering the phones?
Exactly.
Oh my
But that's
God.
not the case with Teri. I mean, I tell you, Teri was amazing. Teri answered calls. She is probably an over communicator, which is great. I mean, I'd rather have that than have the
Yeah.
opposite, And I don't think
Yeah.
you ever can really over communicate. I just think that
I see people's deals fall apart at my brokerage all the time. Like you'll listen, you'll be sitting and you can hear them, and it's all things that could have been prevented.
Yeah.
Like it is your job as the agent to make sure that the house is ready for inspection or, or that loan status updates are completed every week, or that the title company is receiving everything that they need, or that just the back and forth between the buyer and a seller. And again, it doesn't matter if it's off market or on market, it still has to go through title. Everything still has to be done correctly. And if you're not on top of that, I have an amazing transaction team.
you do. You really do.
So like the only way that I'm able to do the quantity of transactions is because I have them.
Right.
And I think a lot of people try to do it all on their own too.
Yeah.
And then also like if they're not really knowledgeable, like you should know the contracts that you're sending out. You should know what the details say. Like don't just have somebody sign something that you don't even know what it is.
Right.
The art of negotiation, that's big. You don't want to like give away a deal, but you also don't want to lose a deal because it's a buyer's market right now. There's a bazillion homes out there that if your house doesn't work, they're going to go 2 doors down and they're going to buy another home.
Right.
I have a house that's listed for $995 right now. And I did see the Cromford report and like did the update on that. And like between 800 and like a million, like 1.1, that like price range has dropped 24% with traffic right now.
Oh, wow.
So the
That's
other,
huge.
the 5 to 800 or the 1 to 500, those went down like 1 to 2%, 24% for the 800 to 1 million for traffic for people looking for homes within that price range.
Wow.
If you don't know what the market is doing right now, like you can't discuss with your clients and give them, security, like being able to call him and say, hey, like we've been on the market just a couple weeks, but like the market's slower right now. So no, we're not having people going in and showing every day because that's not what the market is right now, but you have to have that data to be able to make them think, oh, okay, everything's okay. Not why am I not getting showings? Or, hey, let's make sure we list it appropriately because you want to list it for 1.2, but a house 2 doors down just went under contract, the same exact square footage and floor plan for $995.
Right.
We can sit on market or we could list it at 1.1. We could go under contract at 1.1. But if appraises at $995, then it doesn't matter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But some people just don't understand the different things that play into a transaction. And so one size fits one. Like every deal is different.
Every deal is definitely different.
But it's hard out there. Like for the flippers, like I feel for them because the market has leveled and dropped so much in the past like few months.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
At the
really
same time, the rental market has drastically shifted too in a positive way, right? And so if you can make that pivot from flipping into buy and hold.
Yeah, I think people just have to look at that multiple exit strategy on the investment side with these properties. Like, yeah, if you're not able to, how do you pivot and how do you hold it and how do you rent it out and how do you make something out of it? Because unless you have to, right? Like if you have to sell it all, again, one size fits one, every deal is set up different. There's private money lenders or hard money lenders or both. There's different things in each transaction. But a lot of what you just said is exactly how it is. Like, because the rates are what they are, a lot of people are waiting and they're renting right now.
Yeah.
So I think that they will end up buying. I think if you're capable of buying right now, I'm not saying that homes won't drop maybe a little bit more, but I feel like they've already really dropped down to kind of a baseline of where they're going to be at.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're able to buy homes and hold right now is a great plan, because I think in another, year or two, you're going to be able to make some money off of those houses that you've purchased right now in the low.
Yeah.
We'll all cross fingers that Trump does away with the IRS and
That's right. I know.
and the tax,
Burdens. That's nice. And interest rates hopefully will go down, but I know Powell doesn't want to do that right now, but I think in the next couple of years they will, and then we'll see the market go back up. And
hey, you know what? I have sold a few new builds.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. Go ahead.
Their interest rates, if you can look in areas where there's new builds, you can get interest rates at like a 3.99, 4.25, 4.5, 4.75. All of them have been under 5%.
And that's the contractor, right? He's becoming the bank in selling these properties.
The builder.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they offer, in addition to the rates, closing costs covered or 2-1 buy down option on top of, already having a lower rate. So like example, my kiddos just closed, their house was at a 3.99, but they got the 2-1 buy down. So for this first year, their rate will be 1.99.
Wow.
And next year, 2.99. And then on the third year, go up to 3.99.
And that'll be their max for 30 years?
And it'll be it. It's not on a arm. It doesn't flux after the 3.99. It's locked. So, there's so much opportunity. A lot of those builders for investors will actually, they even have like a cash price because they're now they're not having to buy down and pay for loan rate and all of that. So they'll just take it off. DR Horton, they have a whole separate list of like what cash prices will be. And if you can get those properties while they're in the midst of creating these communities and they're not even done yet, by the time the community is completed, you have equity in that home. Yeah. So for an investor, I would say like if you can go, and some of them are, like if you can go in and buy a new build, go buy a new build.
Yeah.
Because literally within a year, you're going to have equity in that home.
Yeah.
And obviously there's different areas around here, like Florence, Maricopa, Santan Valley, even if you go over into like the West Side, there's different, it's really not in the city, right? It's in the outskirts, but all of those areas are growing, Santan Valley, for example, is now looking a lot more like Queen Creek. So it has all the food and shopping and things like that. So those home values are just going to be increasing because, that what's going on around them. So I think if I were investing, that's kind of where I would be looking.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's a really good tip. Yeah. How long have they been doing that?
For a little while now. I mean, I think they will continue as long as the rate stays where it's at right now. They'll continue to hold them in-house. And they're all slightly different. You know, I've sold DR Horton, Lennar, Richmond America. You know, I've gone in and out of all of them, and they all have different incentives like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're finding that all in the new developments within the last year or so that have started doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And they're beautiful homes. You know, I think there's definitely certain builders that I prefer. I love Lennar. I think Lennar offers good quality homes and what comes along with it. Like all of their homes have window shades, you know, like, you know, that's such a cost for people when they have to go and then put window treatments in, you know?
Yeah.
So like having that, you know, sometimes, not all, but you can negotiate. That's also why it's so great to have an agent negotiate for new builds. Like people don't understand that. They're like, oh, well, I can just walk in and there's an agent there. Like they're working for the builder. You need somebody to represent you.
Yeah.
Like, again, another example, not these kids, but another one, they were only offering $6,000 for closing costs, but closing costs were going to be $8,500. So I was like, no, you need to cover all of their closing costs, and they need a washer and a dryer.
Yeah.
So they threw in the washer and dryer and they covered all the closing costs. But like a regular person wouldn't even know to ask that, you know?
Right. What about, I know Liz Mayer just had made a comment about she has some friends doing that. Yeah, and they've been killing it. So when you're talking about an investor, do they work with investors? Are they able to go ahead and buy these also? And it's not like the bank situation would be like, oh, you got to have more down because you're an investor, blah, 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 because you're not living in it. So these guys, it's like cookie cutter for everybody. It's the same all across the board.
They don't care. I mean, there's obviously going to be different neighborhoods and different CCNRs. Like, so if somebody's trying to buy one to Airbnb for a weekend, like, no, most of the, you know, communities, it's at least a 30-day rent, you know.
Right.
They don't do the short term, or some of them it's 6 months, some of them it's a year. So you definitely have to check the CCNRs. But if you're looking for like a single family home rental, you know, that's definitely where it's at. Or even if you can do like the traveling nurses where they're there for a length of time, right? It's mostly when you have those people coming in and out each weekend and causing chaos. They don't want that. But no, there's specifically like, I have a really awesome agent that works for DR Horton, and he constantly is reaching out to me like, hey, where's your investors at? Like, look at this list of all cash, you know, and they just discount the crap out of them. So
nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's actually really good to know.
And then you have to think like things covered. It's not like you're having to worry about replacing, you know,
Yeah. Right, the roof's new, the HVAC's new, the electrical's updated, and the plumbing's great, right?
Everything is good. You have a year. I always tell my folks, I'm like, hey, like 2 weeks before your 1 year is over, like that's when you should have an inspector come out and do an inspection, you know, right before your like full warranty is up, because usually they'll have that, like everything's covered within the year, you know, certain items 2 year, and then like the foundation and structure up until the 10-year, you know, but right before you hit that 1 year, like have an inspector come out and flag everything, and then you have them come and fix anything they find.
And then what about home warranty? Do you recommend home warranties for people? Like,
I absolutely do. I know it's very mixed feelings with people. I personally have a home warranty, and I've used mine multiple times on multiple houses. So I couldn't read what that said.
But Liz,
hold on, I'll put it back up. It was funny.
Liz is a hoot. I love her.
Sorry, you live like me, get fined for cleaning out your garage.
She's buying an RV park, and I got to get her on here. She's got such a great story. So,
oh, Liz, good. Yeah, contact me. We'll get you on. But that's funny.
Yeah.
So I just had my washer, like a spring broke on the lid. Really nice LG, few years old. Like, anyways, they couldn't find the little part, and they sent me $750 to get a new washer.
Nice. Can't beat
Um,
that.
it's if you can get it negotiated in a deal, great, because like sometimes it makes sense if there's older appliances or an older HVAC, but it's working. So maybe you ask the sellers to add in a home warranty for at least 1 to 2 years. So that way you're not putting the stress on the sellers for having to replace something that's still actively working.
Right.
But hey, we know it's working, but we know the age of it. So we would like, a $500, $600 credit for a home warranty to cover for a year. And then they can just carry on the payments. And it's like $40-$50 a month. Like, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just for peace of mind. Like, if my HVAC goes out, I know that it's covered under my home warranty. So I will pay $40 a month. That's how much mine is for my house. It's $40 a month, $37, I think, because I got a deal on it. $37 a month to know that if my HVAC goes out, I'm not going to have to pay $15,000 or $12 or whatever it may be.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Just peace of mind. Just it's an insurance policy, so you don't have a big surprise if it happens. Yeah.
Right. So I don't ever put it in the beginning of an offer, like because there's a spot to put it in there. I always like wait for inspection, and then if it's something we need to ask for, then we can ask for it from the seller at that point. If it is maybe you're the seller and they have like a couple of things that they're like, hey, well, we want this and this done. It's like, hey, well, it's not broken on the inspection. We'll offer you a home warranty.
That's smart.
Like I just had a house that I sold and there was like nothing really wrong with the HVAC, but it was older. And they're like, well, we want, it cleaned and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how about we offer you a warranty?
Yeah.
Call it a day.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yes, Liz, you're right. Teri is an agent anyone would be lucky to have. So she's amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. I love what I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I love the new buyers. I love the families, the single man that I'm getting his first house, the investment side. This commercial experience has been fun. I'm helping some folks that are trying to find a home for their church to move to grow in because their church is like pretty full. And they also have like a little school. So we're trying to find a place for them to push together and expand. And then I have a gentleman that I've known for many years. He owns Randizzle's food truck. And so we're looking for a brick and mortar, which I think we might have found yesterday.
Which is great food, by the way.
So good.
It's so good. Is he still doing the traveling thing with his trailer? Yeah. Teri had
He's won awards, and he literally has a line. So wherever he posts up, he posts his weekly schedule, and people line up to come and get his burger. So yeah, I think we found a spot over off of like Alma School and Baseline. I'm really excited.
That's a good location because people from all over could come around to that.
Well, because I've now done a couple LOIs being the business owner and starting businesses, jumping in on the commercial side is like, I'm able to jump in a lot easier because I've done it, so going through TIs, and I have an amazing, architect and commercial GC, and, the referral business off of doing real estate is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'll ever have to pay for my landscaping at my house ever again.
Yeah.
I get free pest control.
Yeah.
Nice.
I sometimes get little money entered into my account because of jobs that they do.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, this was from this job, because I've worked, 5 to 10% kickbacks with all of my vendors and contractors.
Right. That's awesome.
My pool guy discounted me like 10 grand on my pool.
For referrals. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Because a pool's really expensive, or can be. Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you get it all done? Is it all landscaped, everything in?
Oh my gosh, you're totally coming over.
I know. We have to come see this and have us have fun.
if you're like, what happened to Teri in the middle of the day?
Yeah.
I
She's
might
floating
be
in
in
the
my
pool.
pool.
She used to come over to our house when we were in Ahwatukee and we'd have a girls' pool time with our frozen grapes.
Oh my gosh, the frozen grapes are the best. Yeah, I'm like a little bit of work. I'm like, I'm just gonna jump in the pool really quick.
That's so funny. Well, Teri, it's been great chatting with you. We are at the 1 hour mark. So
Wow,
I know, right? See, it goes by so fast.
that went very fast.
So I'll just pull this up again. If anyone wants to connect with Teri, you can find her on Facebook or LinkedIn at Teri Hunter Real Estate Agent or on Instagram at Mrs. House Hunter. I love that pun, play on words, play on your last name.
right?
I love it.
Or I don't think
email.
I've seen that one yet.
Yeah. Or email at Teri@cactuslivingaz.com. Teri, thanks for being on. This has been a great discussion about all things related to real estate and women in real estate and faith-based investing.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And we should just continue cheering each other on and praying for each other. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Definitely needed.
All right. Well, have a good night, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.